So what is going on? We are live, Road to the Pros, week 19. Hey man, I hope you guys are doing pretty well. I'm doing okay. As we're going to talk about here in just a couple of seconds, I feel like I have some momentum built up, and I feel like I may have figured out the internet connection, although it is pretty shoddy back here in the studio slash prison. And so you guys may only have me here for like 30 seconds, and I may just bomb out. So let's get right into it, man. My name is Jim Schultz, and I am training for my pro card later this fall on the natural bodybuilding stage. If this is your first time, Cliff, what's going on, dude? Good to see you, man. Thanks for tuning in today, man. I appreciate you so much. So Clifford Starks, everybody, that you guys are able to check this out. Go check out my man's channel if you're just looking for motivation and inspiration, just kind of across the board. Clifford is a really, really good dude. And so I'm training for my pro card in the fall. If you've been following the Road to the Pro series, then I thank you. If this is your first time checking us out, then I thank you maybe even more, because I appreciate you kind of testing us out here today. So let's talk about the power of momentum when it comes to your training. And then I want to update you guys on my progress here, 18, 19 weeks in. And so, yes, thank you, Clifford. I appreciate that, man, very much. We're going to give him hell, man. We're going to give him all we got in the fall, and we'll see what happens. So, momentum, man. So, really, it all traces back to, like, the first law of motion. So, you may have learned this in, like, physics class or, like, math class or something like that, whether it be high school or college. If you go back to, like, Newton's laws of motion, one of the things that you've probably heard this before is that an object that is in motion tends to stay in motion. An object that is at rest tends to stay at rest. And so that principle applies to, pretty much everything in our lives, right? Pretty much everything across the board. And so let's take that idea and let's apply it to your training. You know, just as well as I know, that, man, it is so much easier to just keep things moving forward. It is so much easier to make those incremental changes, day by day and week by week, when you have a little bit of momentum built up, when you have a little bit of a structure in place. It's so hard to start from scratch. It's so hard to build up that inertia to get things going, get things off the ground, right? It's just really, really difficult to do. And so that's why I wanted to talk about the power of momentum as it relates to your training. Specifically, your weight training, your cardio training, and then your nutrition. Because the reality is this: if you mess up a little bit, none of us are perfect. So you're going to make mistakes, right? If you mess up a little bit and your nutrition is maybe not where you want it to be, or you miss a couple of days in the gym, or you have a couple of crappy workouts, or it doesn't matter, right? Fill in the blank. We've all been there. The truth is, if you just keep going, if you just keep finding small little ways to just keep moving the ball forward, keep moving down the field, that is going to be so much easier than saying, it's not working out the way I want it to be. I'm a perfectionist. If this thing isn't perfect, if it's not A++, then it's a failure, right? So many of us fall victim to that mindset. I know I do all the time. When the reality is, B- work, a string of B- work, quick shout out to my girl Brooke Castillo, who I think first brought this idea to my head. B- work can change somebody's life. B- work can change your life. You consistently apply B- work to what you're doing, and you're going to do just fine. And so, from a nutrition and training standpoint, if you have a little something built up, if you have a little bit of momentum kind of started, don't lose it, man. Just do a little bit at a time. Make gradual changes. Make small incremental changes. If you've been following the Road to the Pros, for all 18, 19 weeks, then, man, I really thank you. We started off over on Facebook. We've migrated to YouTube. This is something I talk about, I think every single week. I think every single week we talk about the importance of making small, gradual changes, because it's so powerful. Nothing seems overwhelming and nothing seems daunting, and it all seems and feels realistic. And so I want to leave you guys with this illustration that I heard from somebody else, and I forget her name here in the moment, but man, it is so good. So good. When it comes to momentum and it comes to the laws of motion, specifically that first law of motion, here's what we need to remember. So pretend that you are on a soccer field and you have a choice between taking 6 different balls and kicking each one time. Or you take the same ball and you kick that ball 6 times. Which one is going to move you further down the field? Now, it's pretty obvious, right? Kicking the same ball 6 times is way more valuable and will cause way more growth and impact than kicking 6 different balls one time. Now, her purpose there was talking about kind of focusing on one thing and singularity of purpose and that kind of stuff. But what I want to talk about here is you've got your one soccer ball, right? You've got your one thing. So now that you've got that one thing in place, just keep kicking that guy. Just keep kicking that guy, and sometimes you're going to kick it and it's going to go really far down the field. Other times, you're going to kick it and it's barely going to move. You're going to kick it and it's barely going to go anywhere. You're going to kick and you're going to swing and miss. But man, you kicked. But you tried to keep the ball moving. That's the most important thing. The most important thing is to harness the power of that momentum. Because 1 kick, 2 kicks, 3 kicks, 4 kicks, 5 kicks, and the next thing you know, you look back, you're like, wow, I've actually made some real progress. I've actually really moved closer to my goal. So that is the power of momentum, and it's kind of zen, right? We're a little bit meta today. You know, it's maybe not as practical as some of the other things that we've talked about, but in my opinion, it's no less important. In my opinion, your mindset is probably going to be the differentiating factor between you're achieving your goals and you're not achieving your goals. So let's talk about, I'll give you guys, for those of you that made it to this point in the video, whether you watched live or on the replay, you guys are awesome, man. I appreciate you. Give me 2 minutes. Let me give you a quick update as to where I stand. I am now 19 weeks in. I am down 16.5 pounds. I hit a new low this morning at 192 and some change. And so I'm behind where I thought I would be at this point. But nevertheless, the last few weeks, I've really started to pick up some momentum. The last few weeks, I feel like I'm finally finding my groove. It's only taken me 4.5 months. And I really think that the next 4.5 months, the really important 4.5 months, are going to be very fruitful. And I think my progress is really going to pick up steam here for the next, at least 4, 6, 8, 10 weeks. And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm a little bit behind, but when I started, I wanted to average about 1.25, maybe 1.3 pounds per week weight loss. If I can just pick that up just a little bit to like 1.5 pounds a week, then I'm going to be in good shape. I'll be able to make up some ground, and then I may have to tack a couple of extra weeks on the end to get where I want to be, because I started at 209, I'm 192 and some change. I know to turn pro, to give myself a chance at turning pro, I need to be 155, 156, or 158. So I've got lots and lots of work ahead of me, obviously, but I am up for the task. And the great thing is, I've given myself a ton of time. So now that I finally have the momentum, I feel like I had the momentum for like the first month. And for those of you that have followed the journey from the very beginning, man, thank you very much. I feel like I had it there for about the first month, and then I lost it, honestly, for about 10 or 11 weeks. I caught the flu. That put me out for like 8 days. I was traveling a lot for work. I was doing some different things. I was just being a bonehead and being kind of lazy, honestly, and just taking, shortcuts and trying to cut corners, and I paid for it. I paid for it with some really slow and inconsistent progress. But now that I have the momentum, man, like I wanted to share this with you all here today, not only to help you out, but honestly, to help me out. Like I was like, hey, I'm going to say all this to everybody. I'm going to make it out there. It's public. It's live. You guys can watch it. Right now, I need to be accountable to my own words. Now I need to be accountable to my own advice. And so that's what I'm going to do for the next, 1 week and 2 weeks and 4 weeks and 8 weeks and 12 weeks and the next 19 weeks. And so I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty strong. And that's the power of momentum, man. That is absolutely it. So if you guys enjoyed this, and for those of you guys specifically that might be focused on fat loss, I would encourage you to bounce on down to the description below and scoop up the fat loss formula if you haven't done so already. It is totally free, and it'll give you a structure, man. It'll give you a structure. It'll give you a system to really kind of start to quantify your fat loss and really start to think about how you approach nutrition, how you approach training and cardio with a fat loss focus. And so if you're kind of frustrated and you're like, man, I just can't find a way to get my own momentum, I just can't find some traction with a system that I think kind of works, this thing will give you a really, really great foundation. So scoop it up. It's totally free. You can take a look at it in like 3 minutes. And if you don't like it, just toss it in the cyber trash and never look back. And I will not take it personally. And so that's it, man. Road to the Pros Week 19. We made it all the way through with no crashing internet. And so I don't know if it's been buffering on your end or if it's been clear on your end. I hope it's been a decent viewing experience. But I thank the few of you that were able to check us out live. I thank you guys that check it out on the replay. Of course, I will be back next week. I'm trying to do them at 2:30 every single Saturday so we can kind of build up a little bit of a routine. Grab the fat loss formula down below. Harness the power of momentum. And hey, tag a friend. Tag a friend. Invite them to next week's. And of course, if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. And yeah, man, you guys have a great weekend. I'll see you guys next week.